Jack Ashley had not slept well that night. It was his first night in his new apartment and the bed was hard. Not that it was particularly bad, but he had found it difficult to sleep in a new city and a new apartment, and the bed was not comfortable. Also, the noise from the city outside had kept him awake. Cars passing by in the street below had woken him from time to time. The bar at the end of the street had stayed open late, and people were talking and shouting outside in the street. This had gone on constantly until he finally decided to ignore it and had fallen asleep. Getting out of bed, he headed for the kitchen to find a selection of foods in the cupboard and milk in the fridge. There was also an opened jar of instant coffee on the shelf above the fridge. He pulled down the jar, opened the carton of milk, and found the sugar. He was working on automatic pilot. Turning on the kettle, he boiled the water, found a mug, and made himself a cup of coffee. In one move, he took the mug, moved it into the lounge, and sat down on the sofa. He looked at the TV and found the remote control on the low table in front of him. He pressed the TV button and the television came to life. Thankfully, it was preset to an English news channel. Jack settled back into the sofa and watched the news while sipping his coffee. He had finished his coffee when the phone rang by the side of the lounge. He looked at it curiously. Getting up from the sofa, he moved to the phone and pulled it from the hook. Putting it to his ear, he groaned, "Yes?" A faint voice at the other end said, "Jack? Jack? It's Chris." "Okay," Jack replied. "Wait a moment. What do I do?" "Press the button and let me in," the voice replied. "Okay," Jack replied and pressed a button on the side of the phone. Down in the hallway, he could hear a buzzing noise and the sound of the front door opening. Putting the phone back on the hook, Jack realized that he was only wearing a bathrobe that didn't fit very well. Taking the belt, he pulled the rope around him and tied the rope around him together, and he looked okay. Chris walked up the stairs and into Jack's apartment. "Sleep well?" he asked, walking into the lounge. So, replied Jack. He pulled his bathrobe closer around him and moved back to the sofa. He realized that he didn't have anything on underneath, so pushed the rope between his legs as he sat down on the sofa. "I have some information for you," said Chris enthusiastically. "Something you might find interesting. Something to get you started." Chris sat down on the sofa next to Jack and placed a brown folder on the low table in front of them. Jack looked into his coffee mug and realized it was empty. "Can I get you a coffee?" he asked. Jack disappeared into the kitchen and then came back with 2 cups of coffee. He placed one in front of Chris. Chris opened the folder. In it were 2 sheets of paper. He placed the sheets of paper in front of Jack. "What we have here are 2 reports submitted to us. One is from our colleagues in Paris and the other from the European Commission. They both mention your friend Damien Green," said Chris. Jack sighed and looked at the papers. "They're both in French," he said, feeling confused. Chris looked at him. "Yes," he said. "I assume you don't read French." "Not really," Jack replied. Chris sighed. "Okay. They don't really say anything important. This is one from our colleagues in Paris and is asking for information about him, about Damien Green. The other one from the European Commission is raising a concern about a European official and is asking if we have any information on Damien Green. And do you? Asked Jack. No, replied Chris. That's why you are here. What do you know? Do you know where he lives? We know where he lives. Jack sighed, sipping a cup of coffee from his mug. Musselstraat in Tavern. He had an apartment there. That is easy. It was on his ID card. Everyone living in Belgium must have a Belgian ID card. Jack took a sip from his coffee. So why do you need me? Asked Jack. What we need to know, Jack, is why he is of interest in Paris and why he is of interest in the European Commission. Why is an expat British agent coming to the attention of the police in France and in Belgium? Jack took another sip from his coffee. How should I know? Said Jack.